My name is Andrew. I grew up in Alliance, Ohio, and I started looking for God when I was around 20 years old. I'm 24 years old now, and when I went to high school, I didn't really care about my grades. All I cared about was hanging out with my friends and having fun. Kind of more the typical high schooler is now, really. And I kind of just followed the crowd and did whatever the crowd was doing. That led me in the wrong place in my life I needed to be at. I lied to people. I did whatever I could to get my own way, and that's not what life is about. I started, I was drinking and I was doing some drugs and stuff like that with my friends, and I thought it was all fun and games at the time, but it just led me down a path to where, it was fun at the time, but when I woke up the next morning, I had nothing to show for it. My buddy that I knew at the time went to Arkansas for a year. And when he got back from Arkansas, he started to talk to me about God. And I started to talk to him about God too. And we would have these ongoing conversations for a half hour at a time about God. We didn't know who God was. We didn't know what God was. We actually started to make up in our minds what we thought God was. We were saying what God was when, God is who God is, and that's not something for us to make up. Me and my friend, we would sit down and talk about God and all that, and I felt like it was awesome at the time. And then I'd go home that night, and then, I would get depressed. I didn't know what was going on. I was getting a false interpretation of what God really is. And I looked for God for around a year, maybe a year and a half. And my father's a Christian. He went through a few problems in his life of his own. He was an alcoholic, and he found Jesus. And I thought, oh, well, okay, yeah, that's good. Good for him. Good that he did that. I didn't really think that Christianity was right, because they said that people could find God only through Jesus, and I thought that was ridiculous. But it's very true, and my story is living proof of that, because my father asked me to go to church with him, and I did it just to make him happy on an Easter. And when I went to church, I walked in like, okay, let's just get this done and over with. As soon as we started worshiping at church, we started worshiping God, and I really like that, because I like to do things to please God. And then I feel this overflowing love and joy and compassion and grace and mercy, and it just overwhelms me. I started to cry. That's when I found out what God really was and what His grace was really about. And if I was looking for God for 2 years before I came to church, and He never showed me that once, and I come to church that one time, and that's when He showed Himself to me, I don't think that's a coincidence at all. And ever since I started coming to church, I became a Christian. I read the Bible, and I follow God's Word, and He's brought me into a place in my life to where I'm extremely happy. And Jesus has spoken many things into my life. He talks to me. I know that God talks to me because He tells me things that I know I wouldn't have known. And it's a very awesome and cool thing.